Hello and welcome back to Goswick Lane. You may be a little confused and you see this thing in the background that says Uncomfortable Truth. Well, we're just recording in the Uncomfortable Truth studio. If you haven't seen any of those episodes, look those up on YouTube. But today we are on Goswick Lane and we got some special guests here. You'll recognize this guy. Janti Patel was actually on our last episode and he caught the bug. And he said, bro, when can we do it again?
It's addicting.
It is. It's fun.
Just to unwind and
Yeah.
be able to talk to people for 30 minutes without this going off.
Yeah. Do you have that thing on Do Not Disturb right now? I don't want to feel that thing vibrating on this table.
Oh, it is now.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I want your full attention. Janti Patel is back with us. I'm super glad to have you again.
Thank you.
We had a very successful episode with you last week. A lot of good content. If you watched that one, I'm sorry about the lighting. It was terrible. It was my fault. I know you guys probably saw it. That was a terrible, terrible lighting. I was the videographer. It was terrible.
It turned out well.
The content's there. We got Gregg. Bailey's been in the real estate industry for 4 months. We'll get into his story. And we got Tyler Owens. Tyler's been in the real estate industry for 5 years and does some other stuff as well. Tyler, are both of you guys at Ramsey Realty with Janti? Okay. So you guys are at the best brokerage in town, right?
That's right.
That's
okay.
right.
All right. They run a tight ship over there, don't they?
They do.
That's awesome. Let's get into it. What do y'all want to talk about today?
Anything that you want to talk about.
Well, I'm not the real estate guru here, and we're talking about real estate and business. Why don't you introduce these two guys, Janti, since you've been on the show before, people kind of know you. Give me your take on these two dudes sitting here and what you know about them.
So I actually recruited Bailey. He was working in the oil field, called me probably about a year and a half ago. He asked me, really, he wanted to buy some rentals and flip a house, and I kind of talked him off the flipping house thing. That was when the market was crazy.
Okay.
And I convinced him to sell his house, and now he's building the new construction house. So he's fresh in, ready to do it, very eager, high speed, kind of like me, just ready to go, always ready to do stuff. And
do you leave a trail of destruction behind you like Janti does because you're going so fast?
Well, I try to mop up as best as I can.
Okay. Are you mopping up his trail of destruction as well?
Yeah, trying to follow Janti around like the puppy dog.
And I say that lovingly with the trail of destruction. You're just going so fast. Sometimes you don't really leave a trail of destruction. You're very detailed for as fast as you go.
I mean, I feel like I am, but everybody in the office makes fun of me because I'm walking circles.
Yes.
I mean,
literally.
that pavement, I'm just walking, and some of them want to sit in and listen, and I don't even think about it. Today we made a joke that I was talking to a client this morning, prospective buyer, and Bailey said, well, I couldn't understand what he was saying. He's walking all around the building.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to have to chase me around with a notepad.
That's it.
Tyler, he actually was working at Ramsey
I
before.
started a couple months before you.
Yeah. And Tyler's young. He's good. He's a hustler too, working multiple jobs. Got into the building industry and really killing it there.
Awesome.
And also sells a lot of real estate. So and he worked for his family business for a long time doing both, and that's really hard. Any agents out there that work double time, I mean, you're trying to manage your day job and manage clients, and then at one point, I think you were doing all three.
It's a lot of expectations. It's a lot of expectations. I want to start with you, Bailey.
Okay.
You're new.
Yep.
What's your experience been so far? You've been 4 months in, right? We've talked about
Yep.
this.
Yeah, about 4 months as a new agent.
Okay.
Like I said, I transitioned from an oil field job, so it's a lot different pace starting out in a totally different industry as a new agent. Came in at the end of the year. I started off a lot better than I thought I was going to. I started off with a listing, $500,000 listing, sold it first week.
So where'd that listing come from? I think that's important.
So it was a referral from a friend. It was a friend of a friend.
Okay.
One thing. So that turned out pretty good, and that kind of sparked it up. I sold $1.1 million last month.
Okay.
I had 6 closings last month. I'm double siding one deal that I'm hoping to close by the end of the year.
Nice.
So it started out pretty good. I should close.
Explain double siding for people out there that don't know.
So when you double side, you start out as a listing agent, and then you also bring the buyer to the table. So you represent both sides.
Also, you get double commission, right? or maybe close. I don't know how your pay structure
Well,
is. But
and most of the time, agents don't do that. And so if you're able to double side, it means that you have the resources to buy it and sell it, or that somebody's called in and you were able to flip them to buy that property, where a lot of agents can't do that or don't do that a lot.
Of your sales per year, what percentage of them do you double side? Just guess.
30% probably.
Okay, I would expect that to be high.
I would say that's probably very high.
Okay. And what was I going to ask you? Of that double side, we'll get back to it. Keep going with your your experiences in your first couple months.
So it's been great. Like I said, it's a nice change of pace.
What'd you do in the oil field?
So I was a pipeline inspector. I did cathodic protection and AC mitigation.
Gotcha.
Gist of it is you put electricity on the pipe, I install it, and it protects the pipe from corroding.
Okay. You like real estate, what pros and cons from going from that to real estate industry?
Man, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm more of a natural salesman. I kind of always flip things. I think my favorite thing about real estate is more or less you're your own boss. You can limit yourself or you can maximize yourself. I mean, you're really the only person that can stop you from moving any further.
If you do great, you did it.
Yeah.
If you are terrible, you did it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no cap on success.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was my favorite part about it. So that's kind of why I decided to jump in it when I did. I kind of came in at the end of the big boom, but I came in kicking and I was strong.
Yeah.
I think I've done a lot better than I planned to do so far.
That's good.
So.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I think you've done great so far.
Yeah.
4 months in and already sold that. It's really good.
So I'm enjoying it.
Good
experience so far. So.
And he just bought 4 new doors.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, now you're an investor.
I am.
He's hooked.
All right.
I bought 2 sets of duplexes here in Longview.
Okay.
At the same time, so working on getting those straightened out. And
you have renters in them yet?
So there was already tenants in them. I've got one that has moved out. I should have it rented by the end of next week. I've processed applications this weekend. So it's been a good start. I kind of jumped in head first in the real estate industry.
Yeah, you did.
So.
I mean, you might as well. You're going to build wealth. You're going to build wealth through that.
I like to be a wide open person. I like to be as busy as possible. So.
Well, and let's not forget, Tyler just bought his first set.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
Tyler, you just bought your first set?
Yeah. Both of them.
And you're scaling up, right?
Yeah.
He's moving quick.
Yeah. Tell us about, let's walk through, like, you've been in real estate 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You also have had a construction company for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And now you're buying real estate.
Yep.
Do you sleep? Or do you, like, this guy, I feel like he's like a vampire that can walk around during the day.
I don't call him often, but if I was to call him at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, I'm sure we'd both still be up working.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's 5 years you've been in real estate? Tell me about your experience and the ups and downs and how you've handled that.
So when I first started, the market was good. I mean, it was decent. And then these past 2 years have been crazy. And then as of now, it's kind of slowing down a little bit. But here recently, I had 3 or 4 under contract, and I want to say it was, I don't know how many it was, but they all just fell out during inspection period. One, the interest rate went up a little bit, so knocked my buyer out of. I was actually double siding that deal, knocked the buyer out of it. Seller decided to keep it as a rental for right now. So it's been crazy overall.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Janti, I'm sure you have some experience with this. The ups and downs of real estate, thinking you have a deal and you're selling a deal and you're about to, you're about to make a pretty good commission check, and then all of a sudden it falls through. That plays with your emotions. It can. How do you guys deal with that?
I mean, I deal with it there's been plenty of deals, and I refer it to doing CPR on a deal. There's been plenty of deals that have been dead. There's been deals, I think, with me and you that have been dead.
Yeah.
But you have
we got one right now that we thought might have been dead, that came back alive, that might have been dead, that now it's alive.
I always tell people, you have to work those deals.
Yeah. What do you call them, Frankenstein deals?
I mean, I just call them the deals that come back from the dead.
Yeah.
They have do not resuscitate on them, and I'm going to keep doing CPR on them until they come back.
And somebody is standing there, like you're the doctor on top of the person in the hospital, and you're doing CPR, and the doctor's like, no, that's he's he's gone.
That's
You're like,
not-
no, he's not gone. He's still here.
But you're right. It can play with your emotions. Like Tyler, I mean, that can get you down. If you have 3 properties that you have under contract
Yeah,
and they
that's
fall
rough.
out,
That's rough.
that can. But he's not going to let that get to him because people are always going to need to sell property.
Yeah.
They're relocating, investors. I pended 3 deals this week, and rates moved half a point or a quarter a point probably.
Yeah.
So the general consensus is, the interest rates are high, but they're not that high if you look at it. Because in the next year and a half to 2 years, they're going to come back down and settle. And so with that being said, I think that you have to – I always tell people it's not closed until you get a check in your hand or you hand over the keys.
Yeah.
One, because all these guys can tell you it can end the day before closing.
Even at the closing table.
Yes, at the closing table.
Have you had one of those happen before that ended at the closing table?
I have not had one that ended at the closing table, but I've had one that ended the day of closing. We ended up getting it back to closing, but those are rough. Those stress you because then every other file that you're working on, it gets put on hold.
Yeah.
You're working that one to get it closed.
And I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that most of the reasons that something would end at the closing table is emotional between the buyer and the seller, or emotional between the seller where you have a couple that may not be seeing eye to eye, or the buyer. Would that be the truth?
That financing,
Okay.
cold feet.
Okay.
Well, when you were selling my house, I mean, we didn't have anything fall through, but the morning of, we were supposed to close. The buyer did their final walkthrough, and the water pressure wasn't sufficient enough to them. And we had to push closing
seems
back
silly.
until it got fixed. Yeah,
It really was. And honestly, what it was, and Bailey knew exactly what it was. It was calcium built up on, it was one of those square, like rain shower heads.
Yeah.
And so he said, look, I'll fix it. He just got all the calcium off of it. That's all that it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, it pushed us back.
And you're the real estate agent that's going in and fixing those. Like, this is not like, look, this is not.
Well,
a
he
big
was
deal.
the buyer going in there. And
Oh, you were
fixing
the
it.
buyer.
I
Okay.
was the seller.
Seller. He was the
Okay.
seller fixing that situation.
Okay.
And, they've already moved out. So the last thing we want to do is have a hiccup the day before.
Yes. So one thing that I consistently talk about with people that I'm, going through business deals with or mentoring possibly is consistency wins. When you're in the game and you're visible and you're consistent, whether those deals fall through or they go through, you're going to win as long as you stay consistent. And part of being consistent is not allowing our emotions to be dictated by our circumstances.
Right.
You got a deal fall through. Now, the flip side of that is if we do let our emotions be dictated by our circumstances, you get a deal fall through, you go into a baby depression for a week and a half, you don't meet any buyers, you don't meet any sellers, you don't go have lunch or coffee with anybody that
Right.
you're working with. All those things happen. Now more and more stuff falls through. You get behind 2 weeks from where you should have been. If we don't let our circumstances dictate our emotions, now it's like, it's a deal. Have a mourning period if you need to for 5 or 10 minutes, rock and roll and move on. That's really hard to do. It's really hard to also not tie our emotions to money, which kind of goes back in with closing deals, right? So if we're tying our emotions to money and a deal falls through, or anything in our life, we get an unexpected bill that we don't know how we're going to pay, especially as you guys, we're all investors sitting in this room now. That's hard. You get a $5,000 tax bill that maybe you didn't plan for.
Well, yeah. I mean, anything that you get. I mean, he bought these couple sets of duplexes. The rents he thought were going to be due on the 1st.
They were doing the 15th, and then they didn't have leases, so I didn't know. And people, it's been I've had a few hiccups, but like you said, it's one of those deals. I mean, when you get knocked down, you can't stay down and cry about it. You got to get back up and take off running and run through the wall full blast.
Yeah, I mean, if we do that, if we allow that to happen, that's an emotional roller coaster that is not healthy,
Right.
And we've all been there.
Right.
We've all been there. We've all been in moments to where that happens and it does knock us down. But are we learning from it? Construction. You've been 5 years in real estate. 2 or 3 years ago, construction started. What's it been like managing both of those going on at the same time?
So I actually started whenever the construction hit an all-time high.
Yeah, we were building a house at the same time that we put on hold for a couple months.
So that was not fun at all. I ended up selling that house for less than I should have.
Yeah.
Because the lumber bill came in at the end, and it was probably 30, 40 grand more than I already budgeted high.
Yes.
And this was 30 or 40 grand more at the very end that I got the final lumber bill, and I was like, holy crap. This hurts a little bit.
That's rough, dude. I remember that same scenario. We're building a house and we get our lumber package bid, and it's 90 grand, 100 grand. I think it was 90. And 6 months before that, it would have been 50.
Yeah.
And we said nope, and we waited about 3 or 4 months, and it came back down to about 55, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But that's the game, right?
But 5 years ago, that lumber bill would have been 40.
Yeah,
And
you're
now,
right.
And now you're talking about the same house for 110 or $100,000 in just your lumber costs.
Inflation. Buddy of mine told me today, just speaking on inflation, get ready for your insurance rates to go up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Big
I've
time.
already heard that.
I've already seen them too.
Okay.
My insurance guy, Donovan Insurance, that's who we run everything through. He said, yeah, you better get ready.
Yeah.
It's going up.
Geico across the board, 60% increase.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just the one I heard, but they're all going up, and it's not, they're not paying out more claims, especially the guy that I was talking to in this area. It's just inflation.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything's up. What's next?
You tell us.
From a customer perspective, from a potential client or a client, were you calling potential clients until you get to that close?
No, they're your client because
Okay.
ideally, most of the time, if I'm working with a buyer, I don't normally do buyer rep agreement. My brokerage doesn't like that, but
Okay.
because that's not a smart way to do it. But I feel like if you're my buyer and you're comfortable with me, then I shouldn't have to have you sign a buyer rep agreement. You're going to stay with me
Right,
because I'm
yeah.
doing my job.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you view me as a client or
Yeah.
or some?
Yeah,
What if I don't want to be viewed as a client?
friend and client.
Okay. I'd rather just be viewed as a friend that you find crap for me for. Whatever. I'm kidding.
Well, and so you have to kind of manage that. And I tell Bailey too, because he's newer, and the newer agents can get got by a buyer. There's certain clients that'll go out there and they know their agent's out of town, so they'll call Bailey, who's the listing agent, let him show it, and then write the offer through their agent, which the consumer, they don't know.
Yeah.
But it does happen. I mean, it happened on the first listing that I had when I came home. I was literally brand new as an agent.
Yeah.
I just popped this $500,000 listing out, and the potential buyer calls me, wants to see it. So I schedule it. About an hour later, an agent calls me, wants to schedule at the same time.
Okay.
So already kind of tricky. And I was like, so I called the buyer back. I was, hey, y'all don't have a realtor by chance, do you? Oh, yeah, we do have a realtor. And
Okay.
I was like, well,
Well, let them do it.
I can't show it to you. And that
Yeah.
was his realtor that was scheduling it with me.
Okay.
So
That's very interesting. So if you are a buyer or a seller out there, understand the perspective of your real estate agent that's going to put a lot of work in for you on both sides of that deal if you want them to, or one side of the deal that it's you may not think it or even realize it because they've never gone through it before, but it's sliding your realtor if you do something like that. So just be aware and be considerate of their time when you go into a deal. If you want them to do both sides, have them do both sides. I don't prefer, you're the only guy that I've ever been okay with doing both sides of the deal, and I'm speaking as an investor here.
Right.
From a buyer's perspective, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong here, I feel like it'd be a hard time for you to be unbiased on both sides of that. So let's go some pros and cons here. I know it's great to sell both sides of that deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you stay, if you're selling both sides, how do you stay unbiased from buyer to seller and back from seller to buyer?
Well, I mean, you really have to. Tyler's worked a bunch of these deals. Bailey has too. Per our license, we have to be a neutral party. And so I'm not shy to tell you, I've had people say, well, you know what they'll take.
Yeah.
I do know what they'll take.
Right,
I'm not
but I'm
telling
not
you.
going to tell you.
Because it's not worth my license to tell you what it is. Also, it's not ethical.
Yeah.
Why am I going to tell you something? You know,
Your job is to get the most money you can for your seller.
correct. And represent the buyer with their best interest.
Right.
And so we have to give facts, not opinions about it. We can't say, well, you know, Joe will take 10,000 less. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it was me being the seller or buyer, I wouldn't want to do that either. That's not fair.
Yeah. And you and I have done a couple deals where you represented both sides of that. And I've always felt like you rode that line well. Of like, I'm not going, like, we're friends.
Yeah.
And we talk quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stay here in the middle,
Right.
neutral. I'm representing you, and I'm going to stay here in the middle. And I think that's a pretty big talent. And I say talent. You put it in ethical terms. But I think it's important. Like, if you can do that really unbiasedly, then you're a top tier agent. Guys, I want to go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask Tyler, have you ever had anybody ask you on a double side?
Yeah, I usually tell people up front though. I'm only telling you facts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't tell you stuff like that.
He does the same thing.
You just become the middleman. You're almost the messenger between
right.
the seller and the buyer.
All right, guys, here's a good one. What is the worst, I don't want any names or any property addresses or anything like that. We don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but what is the worst experience you've ever had with selling or buying a house?
Tyler can go first.
I gotta think about that for a second.
Okay. Bailey, you got one?
So are you referring as an agent or like even before we were agents?
Specifically as an agent.
So I've only been doing it for like, obviously about 4 months.
Yeah.
Probably the deal that I'm working now. It's okay. So it's an absolute nightmare.
Okay. Does the customer know? Does your client know that it's a nightmare?
They know.
They know. This is if
So-
they watch this.
So I can say confidently I can give a scenario and it's not going to be a problem.
Okay.
So it's more or less an investment property. It's 4 acres outside city limits. It's got a trailer house and about a 500 square foot pier and beam brick home.
Okay.
Both inhabitable. It's currently tenant occupied, not taken care of. It's just it needs quite a bit of work.
You're just buying some dirt if you buy this.
Pretty much. So listed way too high.
Okay.
Finally got it under contract. The neighbor's trying to buy it. Tenants have to be out. Seller doesn't want to evict the tenants, and it's just one thing after another, and it has turned into a complete nightmare. I've been working this deal for like 2 months, and we'll be lucky to close by the end of the year.
Okay.
So, and this is the first one I'm double siding, so I'm lots of new experiences. which like we talked about earlier, locally I'm at Ramsey, and I have Janti in my corner, so he's a lot of help and gives a lot of guidance. But
absolutely,
this
that's
is
good.
Great learning experience.
Welcome to the club,
that.
Bubba.
I'm loving it.
Welcome to the club.
In it to win it.
These experiences are tools in your tool belt.
They are.
It's going to happen again if you stay in it long
100%.
enough. I know. I mean, you've done a lot of deals, man. You've done a lot of
100
deals.
deals this year already.
I have, and I don't think that I can think of one in particular. I can tell you a couple different scenarios that have happened, and probably the worst deals because there's multiple.
Can I guess?
Well, that's not in a year.
No. Can I guess what a scenario of a worst deal would be?
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to put it under the umbrella of divorce.
That is one of them. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Because you're having to navigate through and with people that are making those changes in their life, and you have to be careful what you say to one another.
Yeah, that's a terrible time for somebody.
Right.
That's a terrible time.
Especially if the divorce is pretty bad.
Right.
And they're not communicating. You're having to go to Sally and ask her what she wants, and then John to ask him what she wants, and then you're a mediator.
And if they don't agree on anything, it gets even worse.
And it can cost the deal. Most of the time it doesn't, because you're able to navigate through it and say, look, let's not get emotions in this deal. The object is for you guys, and I've told this time and time again, what is your object? Well, I don't want to deal with that person anymore.
Yeah.
This is the last tie that that puts you two together.
What's the main goal here? To sell the house and be done.
Let's sell the house, and you have a lot of cash on the line. If you wait a year or drag this out, this market could change. Let's get this done now.
Yeah.
But probably the worst, other than divorce, is when you have deaths, because then you have heirs. And
Okay.
then you have multiple things.
Is there
People that
probate
aren't
stuff involved in that and lawyers and all that?
probate, heirship affidavits, however it's done. A lot of people don't have wills, and so
Yeah.
that throws it into an heirship affidavit. And once they fill it out, and if there's 4 heirs, then they have to contact all those people, and
Yeah.
they may be entitled to a portion of the proceeds, and that person didn't know. So hiring an agent in that category is very key, because then I have to go to work.
Yeah. You really have to go to work.
Right.
That's a good advertisement for getting a will. Get a will.
Yep.
Go ahead and do it.
So-
Not to make these guys' lives easier, to make your life easier for your loved ones, or to make your loved ones' life easier when that does happen. Because people, when they see dollar signs, and not
Greediness
everybody
comes out.
yeah, and money's just a multiplier, right? We all know that. Money is a multiplier of what's in your heart already. And if there is some illicit stuff in there already, it's going to multiply it. If you're just golden to the core, it's going to multiply it. You don't want your family fighting over dollars when you die. You do not want your death to separate your family. I'm assuming that you don't. Get a will. It solves that. Tell them what to do with the money when you die.
Well, it just makes it so much easier. Like I said, not on the real estate agents, but on the families, because I've seen so many people split, get really greedy, and I have to tell them, look, this is just money.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out and get through it, and then, make it to where it's not damaging.
And you as an agent, and I've seen you do this, and I've heard you while you're on the phone doing some of these tough deals, you don't go up with them. And you don't match their emotional level. You don't go down with them. You literally, like, as a real estate agent, other than taking your real estate courses and getting your license, if you're going to go back to school and get some other stuff, you might want to take a psychology class.
Yeah, we're human punching bags, and also, I tell people all the time, well, I only charge 6%, but for counseling, it's going to cost about $200 per hour.
Yeah,
so you better.
This is expensive. This is expensive.
Well, like you said, money is a multiplier, whether it's a divorce or, a death in the family. We deal with people that are trying to make money, and we deal with people that are trying to get the best deal and save money. And that does bring the worst out of people, especially when they don't get the deal they feel they deserved.
And you're walking through an experience with somebody that is typically the most money that they'll ever spend or earn.
Yeah.
Yeah, biggest asset in their life.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And-
like there's like a list of 3 things that are hard to deal with people. It's like, selling their house or buying a house, politics, and kids. Like, if you have businesses that deal with those 3 things, get ready for some, riding through some emotional roller coasters with people. Did you talk about your worst experience? Did you think of one?
Going off of Janti's, I don't know if you remember this one.
I do.
This is one of, I was probably 6 months in.
Oh, you're new, man. This
Yes.
is
Well,
is
we
fun
both
when you get
were.
these.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this
New.
one, I think this one took 5 months to close.
Oh,
16 heirs in this.
Oh, man.
I'm pretty sure it was a will. I can't remember that far
Goodness.
back. 16. This form had to go around to 16 people all over the U.S. to get them to sign it. That way they could sign off on the house. Yeah, and thankfully my buyers were patient on it.
yeah.
They wanted this house, had the acreage for them and everything, but man, it was a nightmare.
That's tough. And that's what, like, landmen, that oil field landmen, that's what they deal with all the time.
I couldn't do that job.
Man, my parents bought 68 acres in Elysian Fields 8 or 10 years ago, and it was land that our family had leased for cows for probably 20 years. And my parents decided they wanted to buy it, and there ended up being, I think, 17 or 20 heirs or somewhere in there. And so basically they had to get a lawyer to do all that digging and work and get everybody to sign, and then they had to sell, or the lawyer had the option, instead of getting paid to do that, to buy half of the land. But it was a process. That took about a year.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty nuts.
And most of those do. I mean, you dealt with an investment deal that took a while. I think
Yeah.
you showed it to me, and it took 6 months to get that deal closed, because you kind of had the same situation. You found that one on your own.
Which,
or you and your wife.
talking about Methvin?
No, Richfield.
Yes. Yep.
So that one took a little bit of time. I
That
think.
was an emotional. Most of the deals as an investor, I'm looking for deals, especially right now with the rates being up. I'm looking for deals that are just like jam up, no doubt deals, because we know, interest rates up, you're going to pay more for it in monthly. Like you said, though, it's going to come down. You can refinance, but our buy box right now is just those insane deals. But
Well,
go ahead.
You go ahead.
That's an emotional process. A lot of the ones that we find are an emotional process for the seller because it's like, hey, my husband died and I'm moving, or, I'm old and I'm attached, but I'm going to a nursing home. Things like that. And you're walking the seller as the buyer. If you don't have an agent, you're walking the seller through this emotional detachment process. And that one took, I think, a year.
Wow.
I think it took a year to close.
Wow.
Also bought a truck from her.
Yeah.
And that took a year.
Yeah.
There was a 2017 F-250 sitting in the driveway when we went and looked at the house. And I said, well, what are you doing with this truck? And she said, well, it was my brother's, and he passed away. And it took me a year to
It was a
close
long
that deal
time. Yeah.
too. Yeah.
That truck had a lot of dust on it.
Yes.
Because I asked you, hey, what are they doing with that truck? I'll buy it.
It's just
You're like,
sitting there.
no, I'm buying that truck.
I'm buying that truck. That's it. Yeah, it only had 17 model, only had like 35,000 miles on it when I got it.
It was clean.
It's
truck.
clean as the one sitting out there. But those deals just take a long time because you are being, and my wife's really good at this. So like this is her forte when we find a deal and we have to go through this emotional process. She's a really good counselor.
Yeah.
And that's
Making
what
them feel comfortable
Yeah.
about letting it go, because y'all are actually, and there's a lot of investors who I'm not going to say don't care, but they're just out to do the dollar. Y'all actually care about people. And I've heard you say before, look, I told them this. I'm not going back on my word. I'm going to do what I told them.
Yeah, and yes, and they want to see, a lot of times they do want to see that house be turned around.
Right.
And they want to see like the idea of a family living there and loving environment and all those things. They want to see that. And they want to see it turn from what it was to something that's really nice. And if we do tell them that we're going to do that, we do it.
Right.
There's some that we don't say that and we just turn it and flip it. But I would feel really bad if I just told them I was going to do something and didn't do it. Do you have something else to say about that?
Oh, I was just going to comment on, these two guys just bought their first rentals, and you said, I heard you say that, hey, we're just buying the good deals. But you have to look at it like this, again, on interest, that if it's not all about that interest, because the tenant's paying your investment, right? And so if the interest's 2 points higher, who's paying it?
It doesn't matter. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are.
And so
If you can get the amount that you need, right?
right. So I agree, but also sometimes don't agree with people, because if you want the asset and you're trying to build up and you kind of wait out and hold till you get a good deal,
Yeah.
you're never going to get a good deal.
You're right. You have to be actively searching, and I think you still need to create your buy box
Right.
of like, for you, what you're doing is you're working on your basically your generational wealth,
Right.
your retirement or whatever you want to call it, and you're okay. Somebody said the other day, marry the house, date the rate.
Right.
Whatever.
I've heard that
Like,
a lot. Yeah.
And you're okay because okay, the tenant's going to cover that. We're going to cash flow this amount every month, and I'm okay with that. And then in 2 years, we're going to refinance, and then in 5 years, I'm going to have this much equity in this house.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're playing that game, then yeah, I think so.
Well, and your game's a little bit different than what we're more of the long term.
Yeah.
You're short term, and so those things do matter. But I always just tell people, hey, if it feels good,
Yeah.
in your gut, buy it.
And you got to know your market, right?
Yeah.
And you guys,
Definitely.
y'all are really, y'all are entrenched in that because you're buying and selling in this market. So what are you looking at, Tyler, when you're looking at, like, now that you're getting into the investment, and Bailey can hop in there next, is what are you looking for on a real estate investment?
So I would say one of my problems, touching on what you said though, my buy box was way too small. I was looking for too good of deals.
Yeah.
And they just weren't coming up.
Yeah.
And I was probably looking for, I'd say probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So it was.
Wait, hold up. Was that your buy box was too small, or you just weren't ready to commit like fully?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking for too good of a deal that
Okay.
wasn't coming.
It
up
wasn't
on-
there.
Yeah,
Tyler's
it was
too-
never going to come.
Tyler's way too cheap.
Okay. Okay.
Both of these guys are too cheap.
Okay.
We
I
had a
can vouch for
conversation on
that.
the way over here about Ghost Energy. If you would like to sponsor, we would greatly appreciate that.
Wait, what is go? That's got Sour Patch in it.
Oh, bro, Sour Patch, Blue Raspberry. This is in. This is the
That's
new-
like, listen, that's like what my 8-year-old would drink if I let him drink it.
He drinks that all day, literally
Okay,
the
so I
same
normally
one.
drink like 2 a day.
Okay.
So Tyler has.
Let's
quit
talk
drinking
about your
energy
health.
drinks.
Yeah. Okay, go
He's
ahead.
quit drinking energy drinks because he doesn't want to spend the $5 a day on energy. Not because they're not healthy, because
Yeah.
he doesn't want to spend the $5 a day.
Yeah, it wasn't a health conscious
No,
decision.
no,
It's just a financial conscious decision. Man, that's a good point. Like with inflation, and we're getting off the real estate train here, but stuff costs so much now
It
that you're
does.
actually starting to think about every dollar that goes out.
Right.
100%.
You know, when our parents were growing up, and specifically like our parents, their age group, they didn't have all the things that we have now as far as services to offer them their time back.
Right.
And if they did, they didn't use it. My dad changed his oil in his truck and his cars. He fixed his own vehicles. If something, if a fence needed to be repaired on the farm or for the cows, they did that. If a cow had to be put down and slaughtered or whatever, they did that. Like
Right.
there wasn't all these. If they wanted a hamburger, they cooked a hamburger. They didn't go to McDonald's. you know.
Go. I mean, DoorDash. What are you talking about? Go.
Yeah, you
DoorDash
don't have
King
to.
right
You don't
here.
even have to go anymore. Now, there's a certain point where you hit a certain level that I think those things are necessary because you're buying your time back. Right.
That's what I tell people that, if I DoorDash something to the office or whatever, I'm like, I have to get this done.
Yeah.
So it's either pay $5 or go out and fight the crowd for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's time versus money.
Yeah.
And,
And you understand that if you're going out, you need to be intentional about your time, that maybe you are going to a lunch with somebody, but it's not about the going to lunch. It's about the with somebody.
right. And a lot of times I go to lunch by myself. If I have the time,
Yeah.
I go and sit by myself because I never
You need
hardly
to
get.
you need to quiet. Do you ever get anxious about all the stuff that you have going on or what you have to do that day?
Sometimes, but I found that I write things down,
Yeah.
and so I spearhead it.
Okay.
I'm writing it down. I'm marking it off literally of that schedule, and I feel like that helps me not be as anxious about what I need to get done because
Okay.
I'm marking it off my list.
Yes. It's a
Yeah,
big
I
that's
know-
a big deal.
Yeah, and I do the same thing. I just do it in my reminders, and then I just delete it once
Yeah.
I finish it off.
Is it-
Genty is a religious calendar book guy. He carries
I
that
am.
calendar book with him that is day by day,
I
hour
love it.
by hour of the day, and he is religious. As soon as he's on the phone, he's writing it down.
Yeah, I love it.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, and it helps me remember. That's
Yeah.
the big thing.
I forget to put stuff in my calendar all the time just because I get busy, and then I miss.
And that's the stuff that you forget.
Yes, you don't.
Well,
remember.
that's why I write it down on that book.
I had something in my calendar yesterday on my phone, that it was in my calendar, and I was so busy I didn't see the reminder. It was my kids' play at school. Like these are things that I don't ever.
Yeah, that could be a
don't-
bad one.
I don't ever miss. I never miss these type of things.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm very, very thankful for that. But I missed it, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Did you sleep on the couch at night?
No,
Shane likes taking naps during the day. Don't let him lie.
I do. I took a nap. What's today? Friday. I took a nap Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday this week.
Today's a perfect day to take a nap.
Oh, my
Rain.
God.
Nice
Goodness.
rainy day.
We're about to head out to Dallas, so there's no nap unless Mama drives to Dallas. What time we got? All right.
Just cross.
Y'all want to do one more? Or y'all got to go.
We can do one.
All right. Hey, we're going to end this one right here, but hop back in with us on the next episode. I want to get into a few things with these guys on the next episode. One, as if you're a potential customer or if you're looking to buy or sell a house, what are some things that you would need to know going through that process? And two, I really want to dive into the optimizations of a real estate agent and what you guys are doing and what you feel like you can do better. Thanks for being here today. We really appreciate you. Remember, love God, love others, and let your work reflect that. We'll catch you on the next one.